Hey guys, before we get started, remember safety first. Make sure to have a fire extinguisher on hand and know how to use it. Also, please wear proper safety apparel. So, looks like you got a wheelbarrow full of wood here, Jim? What length of wood are you using?
Oh, this is about 17 inches. So I aim for 17 inches, so I have a variety of wood that's between 16 and 18 inches. And that is the perfect firewood.
For a Dauntless?
For a Dauntless or StarCat. See how small it is?
About the size of your wrist.
Yeah, look at that in comparison to my fist.
Yep.
Yeah, it should be split very, very small.
Great.
Very fine.
And people should check out our video about tree species and their merits as a firewood.
Yeah, Angela and I took a nature walk together.
A nature walk.
A couple of weeks ago, and we walked through the Kettle Moraine Forest where we live here, and we talked about, we showed different trees, species, and we talked about how they work as fuel and what to expect from them as fuel. We talked about how each species should be seasoned before attempting to use it as a fuel in a maple syrup evaporator. Very, very important. This is very dry firewood here.
So it looks like you're kind of crossing it and really getting it full.
Yeah, I put a lot of emphasis on that. I cross the firewood so that they're cribbing, so that they're not layering in like sardines. We want to do the opposite of that. We want
get some airflow in there.
We want airflow through there. We want turbulence. That's what makes a fire work.
Got it. Cool.
So let's light it up. Let's make some steam. Let's have some fun. So this is the Dauntless evaporator we're lighting up. The Dauntless and StarCat are both very similar. The Dauntless is about twice the size in terms of pan size. It's twice the capacity of the StarCat. And we have a lot of people using them already. A lot of people have seasons that start before ours does in eastern Wisconsin. And there's been people with flat pans or divided flat pans reporting 15 gallons an hour, which is more than we ever anticipated even. But it's been a huge success. The Dauntless and StarCat are wonderful evaporators. They're airtight, just like our commercial evaporators. We put a lot of emphasis on making an airtight front and an insulated airtight door. There's not a higher quality hobby evaporator on the market.
So, can you show us how air is getting in to feed the fire?
Yep, so it's going to be hard to really show, but there is a damper, a draft control right here. So this actually kills it. This closes off the air supply to the combustion chamber. That's really, you're never really going to use that other than if you need to emergency shut down or shut down for any reason. That will kill the air. If you have this closed and close the door, it'll kill your fire. I suppose if you have excessive draft, meaning you have 30 or 40 feet of chimney pipe for some reason, you might partially close off your air supply to the combustion chamber. But for most of us operating in the backyard, such as we are, draft control is going to be wide open, just like it is there.
Let her rip.
And we let her rip, and we just have a lot of fun.
Awesome. I could see that what the fire was doing in there. Does the fire do anything different after we close the door? Does it behave any differently?
When you open the door of a maple syrup evaporator, you will often see the fire getting pulled away from you. A lot of times you'll hardly even feel any heat because the flame is getting pulled back. You'll feel some radiant heat because everything is so hot in there. But for the most part, when you open the door, the chimney takes over and pulls all that fire back. When the door is closed, it's a completely different environment in there, and we have done testing with high temperature probes to see what's going on inside the combustion chamber. When the combustion chamber is closed, the fire is curling and rolling around. A lot of turbulence coming in from underneath the fire, which is right where you want it to come in. All that combustion air is coming in from under the fire. A lot of turbulence. We see with an airtight front like this, we see an even boil all the way to the front, and that's what you want. When you open your door, you'll see the boil largely die off, and that is because all the cold air that the chimney can pull is getting pulled in, and it's pulling it all back.
Gotcha.
So within a couple of minutes here, we're going to see a boil.
So how often are we going to be adding more wood?
Well, we are going to be adding firewood ideally every 7 to 10 minutes. Our firewood is small, as it should be, and today we're we're demonstrating a backyard evaporator. We're not using any aids in determining what's going on in the firebox. By aids, I mean the aid of having a temperature readout on the stack pipe like we have on some of our automatic draw-off systems, which run on our commercial evaporators or even our upper level hobby evaporators. We don't have a peep window like we have on our Corsair evaporator. The Corsair is also a commercial grade evaporator that we do often size down for upper level hobby boiling. But the Corsair has a peep window, a glass window where we can actually see what's going on in the combustion chamber. So we don't have that. We are going to get used to hearing what's going on. We're going to get used to watching what's happening in the pan, and we're going to get ourselves on a time schedule as well, where we're going to add firewood, and we're going to get in a rhythm, because that's just what we do. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to be adding firewood often. We're going to be adding small amounts of canola oil to defoam, and we're going to be doing that in a rhythm. We're going to be paying attention to what we're doing. We're running a continuous flow evaporator. We're not going to be walking away. We're not going to be painting walls in the house while this is running. We're not going to be cutting firewood. We're not going to be blowing leaves. We're going to be running this evaporator. And that's pretty important. A lot of people think that they can multitask while running their evaporator. If you're multitasking while running your evaporator, don't call us when you're getting half the performance that we tell you it should be getting, and don't call us and complain that your pan burned up, because that's another inevitability if you're not giving this thing direct supervision. At bare minimum, give it general supervision, where you are overseeing it while some other people that may not know the process that well, while they're feeding it fire and stuff, you should still be giving it general supervision.
It looks like the base of the Dauntless or the StarCat could be used for storage. Like you could just throw some extra wood down there and wait for when you need it.
So that might seem like a good idea, but keep in mind some small coals can fall through there over time. Also, a lot of radiant heat comes down. Even though there's cold air getting pulled in under here into the combustion chamber, that's where it enters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of radiant heat that comes down, and that can cause problems if you're putting anything in here for storage.
So this is not storage.
No, it's a nice metal base which catches some of your ash, and very few coals fall through.
Oh,
but still, some can. See, yep, a little hot ember fall.
We don't store wood down here, or puppies, or anything valuable.
Yeah, maybe you might be tempted to warm up your hot dogs or something. Keep in mind, stuff is going to fall down too.
Yeah.
But there is a nice metal base here just to catch some of that hot stuff.
Okay, it's only been a few minutes and we're already starting to see a little bit of steam.
Yeah, we're still on our first charge of firewood. It's been 4 or 5 minutes at the most that we lit the fire, and you bet we're starting to see a lot of steam, and we're starting to see some very light boil in that center compartment.
Oh yeah.
And we are boiling raw sap here. Last year we concentrated with the reverse osmosis system and ran it through a much bigger evaporator, and we made a few hundred gallons of syrup. But today we're dealing with raw sap. We're dealing with it in our backyard. We're trying to we're putting ourselves in the shoes of many hundreds of our loyal customers do every year, who buy the StarCat and Dauntless. Even the Corsair is often set up in a backyard environment like this. And I can tell you that we're going to have just as much fun doing it this way as we do on that semi-commercial level that we did last year. We don't need our business isn't making maple syrup to sell. Our business is building this equipment, and we're going to have just as much fun in our backyard here as we do in the commercial setting.
I think the stress comes in when you've got so much sap and you're trying to process it with something that's too small or whatever, but we're sized appropriately.
You bet. We have about 30 taps in down our driveway here, and we have an evaporator that's going to process at least 10 or 12 gallons an hour at very least. So we're not going to get backed up. We're not going to have that stress. We're not going to have the late nights because, like Angela said, we're sized appropriately for what we're doing.
Okay, it makes sense that the middle chamber would start boiling first.
You bet.
Because that's the where all the heat is concentrated, basically.
Yep. Yeah, we expose as much of the pan to the fire as possible, but no doubt the center of the firebox is the hottest. Before long, you'll see a boil in both compartments. In fact, you can see this compartment already starting its boil too.
Yeah.
And we're only a few minutes into this. We're maybe 7 to 8 minutes into this boiling process right now. And still the first charge of firewood. We did not add firewood since we lit it. That is the beauty of an insulated airtight arch. Still, you see there's no room for firewood yet. That's our first charge. That's the firewood we lit. And startup includes not only getting your sap boiling, it includes getting your firebrick hot. So you're not going to see maximum performance until the firebrick is fully up to temperature, your sap is up to temperature, and everything is just running smoothly. The stack can't start its maximum pneumatic draw until the firebrick is up to temperature and stops robbing heat out of our fuel. And firebrick is dense. The firebrick we use is commercial firebrick, and it's very, very dense. And it's going to be a while for that to get up to its full temperature. It's going to get up to pretty close to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
I see that the handle of your feed pan is closed. At what point do you open that?
Pretty soon. In fact, you can see our liquid depth has dropped slightly already in the sight glass, so it's about time to open that valve. I'm going to let it get up to a full boil in that compartment before I do so. But yeah, any minute here we're going to start trickling the sap in from the feed pan. The feed pan is full of sap already. It's ready to go.
So what other ways could you add sap to the pan other than a feed pan?
Float box is the best way, and we're sort of depriving ourselves of some of the luxuries because we're trying to make a series of videos here that's very relatable to the backyard producer. The backyard producer might not have a float box. The best scenario would be a float box which mounts right here and uses this port, this inlet port of the pan. The float box literally hangs on the rail of the pan and connects right here. Then we have a short tube that does a loop from here into the inlet valve of the float box. The float box takes over and automatically maintains the depth in the pan. That is the best way, and by now that would already be activating and letting a very slow trickle of sap in on its own. Mm-hmm. That's by far the best way to operate. And we might add that. Maybe by next weekend we'll give ourselves that advantage as well. We'll hang a float box on here and show how that works. In fact, we'll probably plan on doing that.
But I do like the feed pan because it's pretty straightforward to operate.
It is, yeah.
It preheats the sap a little bit before it enters the pan. And
it definitely does preheat the sap quite a bit. And now you can see after maybe 10 or 12 minutes of boiling, you can see our depth has dropped significantly. It's dropped a good 1/4 inch from where we started. So I am going to open the handle of the feed pan. I'm going to start introducing a slow trickle of sap. I want to introduce the sap at roughly the rate that it's evaporating.
Mm-hmm. So you can see now too how it's harder to use the level assist as your guide to. Even
though we're still warming up here, it's already hard to tell what's going on.
Yeah, so that's why the sight glass is nice.
Yep. And I'm going to add some firewood. As you can see, it's fairly fuel efficient. It hasn't given us a whole lot of room for firewood yet. It is not fully up to temp either. Fuel consumption will go up marginally as it warms up.
I've had people ask me if they have a lot of coals, if they should be scooping them out and getting rid of them.
No. If you have a lot of coals, if you have coals that build up beyond like what we have in there, that's not a coal problem. That burns away really quickly. You want that. You need coal in there, of course, to reignite your new charge of wood. If you find yourself tempted to scoop coals out, that means you're feeding your evaporator firewood that should not be attempted to be burned.
I think it's too green.
It's too green.
Well,
yep.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.